So this video will cover 2.3, the critical period. This is really America as is shifting from the Articles of Confederation to the Constitution. All right, big question. Why did the Articles of Confederation prove to be an inadequate government for the newly formed United States? Well, it did a good job of limiting power, but it didn't give enough power to the central government to create an effective military force or provide for enough taxes for enough infrastructure. That's the general gist of it. But we're going to look at the specifics here, and we're going to go to the early questions of the founding fathers. So hopefully you guys find this interesting. Articles of Confederation. America's first legal government replaced the Second Continental Congress. It was a plan of confederation. The states were going to be loosely aligned, but it turned out loose alignment wasn't enough to defeat the most powerful military on the planet at that time, the British. And it's approved in 1777, but it doesn't go into effect until the last state ratified them in 1781. So here you see the picture of the Articles of Confederation. Let's go ahead and blow that up so we can see it a little closer. So it says the constitutions of the several independent states of America. See, independence is more important than unity. And it references the Declaration of Independence as well as the Articles of Confederation, which is like a public statement that we're not giving up our local and state rights. That was more important to us than unifying. But yeah, it proves inadequate both as a financial tool and a military one to govern the U.S. But the first structure was unicameral. There was only one Congress, and the state would decide how their delegate was selected, and each state had one vote, no matter its size. And 9 of the 13 needed to agree to pass a law, so it's like a supermajority. The presiding officer was chosen by delegates. It's not the same as the president today, because it'd be more like the prime minister, I would say, which is selected by Parliament. You have Yorktown, Pennsylvania, meeting to decide Articles of Confederation. This looks like a stamp from 1773. Let's go ahead and write in the notes. Okay, the U.S. Congress is bicameral. You have a House of Representatives and a Senate. Not too many notes to fill in there. Let's go to the next one. The powers of Congress. Oh, this is what the Articles of Confederation look like. This is probably a better view of it. See the old school fancy writing. Lists out all the states that signed it and who printed it and when. I guess that would be 1770 something. So Congress can make war and peace, make treaties. This is true even under the Articles of Confederation. Establish ambassadors, borrow money, set the monetary system, create army and navy, create post offices, settle states disputes. This is the current currency. That's $10,000 worth of $100 bills. I don't know, what is that? 100 bills? 100 times 100 is 10,000. Sounds right. 4 zeros. All right. Let's go ahead and write in the notes. If you have the power to make war, generally you have the power to end war, which is peace. Borrowing money. You can't borrow money. It's hard to buy things your government needs. Get army and navy. That's most of the reason why you need money, but you also need it for infrastructure. Post office, states disputes, key ideas. Okay. A state's obligations under the Articles or to obey the Articles and any act of Congress. They were supposed to supply troops and funds. The issue is how much funds. States with more money, should they send more, or should it be each state sending the same? Recognizing public proceedings of each state, meaning you respect the laws of other states, as well as exchanging fugitives, retain open trade, and allow Congress to settle disputes amongst the states. The fugitive issue was really a reference to what are we going to do with runaway slaves? And so you have staunch messages from the abolitionists in these kind of ads detesting those that were trying to uh, capture runaway slaves and send them back. This is an example of that. And it became pretty heated. But the articles were pretty weak. The main reason was because Congress had no power to tax. They depended on borrowing money or asking the states for funds. When you have to ask for money, guess what? People don't always give it. Congress had no power to make states obey the articles or its laws. They also required a two-thirds vote in Congress to pass the laws. It was hard to pass any laws anyway. Go ahead and write that in. Let's take a look at this, and then we'll go to the next one. These are the powers granted by the Articles of Confederation. Congress could raise army, Congress could declare war, and they could sign treaties. They couldn't raise revenue through taxes, and they couldn't regulate trade and collect tariffs. This is kind of an overreaction to the British imposing too many taxes, but also tariffs were a sign of mercantilism, which was about trade surplus rather than just everyone benefiting from trade. You're supposed to trade more than the next guy or country. Shays Rebellion. Under the Articles, the states argued, and they would tax one another, and they wouldn't pay some debts, and generally Congress was ignored. Daniel Shays was a former Revolutionary War officer. He leads a revolt in Massachusetts of some farmers because they didn't want to pay these taxes, and he really shuts down the government. Eventually, the state sends a militia and they put down the revolt. But the lack of a strong national government was obvious because it took them a while to get that shut down, and it showed that they're weak. This is artwork showing Shays Rebellion. See, Shays a farmer here. All these other farmers. Hey, Articles. Want to take care of this? Take care of what? I don't see a problem. Seeing, I think it's like a sheep. And then America's saying, well, what about Shay and his rebellion? We can't have that. So it's time to start thinking of a new government that would be powerful, starting with We the People, wrapped up in the flag. And that's what Shays Rebellion kind of inspired. An obvious sign that the Articles of Confederation was failing. Let's go ahead and jot in some notes. Conditions for farmers. That's all we need to write in there is farmers. Okay. Easy's okay. Remember, we're not trying to write in so much that we lose focus. But it was obvious that there was a need for a stronger government. The many problems on the article led to the need for change. So 5 of 13 states meet at the Annapolis Convention. Annapolis is the capital of Maryland. It's also where naval officers train, which led to another meeting in Philadelphia, and this was the Constitutional Convention in 1787, which leads to the Constitution we have today. Okay. This, I assume, is the Annapolis Convention. Or the Constitutional Convention, I'm not sure. Let's see who we recognize. Look for Washington. He's usually the tall one in the middle. I bet you that's him right here. The shorter ones, usually Adams. Maybe that's Adams. I don't know. It's hard to tell because they all wear the wigs. I think this is Jefferson here. Maybe I should put the laser pointer on. Oh, yeah, let's laser pointer it up. Okay, yeah, I think this one's Washington. I think that's probably Jefferson. Maybe that's Adams right here. I don't know. I honestly have trouble telling them apart because their wibs create a lot of similarity. Like, oh, this is probably Ben Franklin. See the bald? He's noted for his baldness. Anyway, I want you to watch this video on hip hues. It's about 15 minutes, maybe 14 minutes. And I'll play in class and answer this question. So it'll be another 16, 17 minutes with this topic. And that'll be it for notes on the critical period. Until next time, thank you.